I'm wondering what you think the biggest lesson is. We've talked about this all week. What is the biggest lesson about about Bush's candidacy and his prospects from this week?
Wow, there are a lot of lessons, but look, I think that I've gone back and forth, and we both have different. We both agree about a variety of different things. In the end, I think the most important thing is something Al Hunt said yesterday on our air, and he said it a few times. I still don't think he's in the right place. I still think he is in a place that has him in a wrong in terms of the electorate, the broad electorate. His view now, which is I would not, his professed view, which is I would not have invaded Iraq if we didn't have evidence of WMDs. But I still think the war was worth it. I still think that with hindsight, we're right to go in, and the world is better off. Nobody doubts that the world's better off without Saddam Hussein in there, but that he seems to still be discounting the costs of the war in a way that I think is not where the mainstream of the country is, and a place where I think even the mainstream of the Republican Party is in terms of the damaged American credibility around the world, lost lives, screwed up region, all the rest.
Here's what I think is a bigger problem. That's a big one, but here's what I think is bigger. People are being hyperbolic about this, but it is clear. Jeb Bush said, if I'm going to run joyfully. And he said, I'm going to show people my heart, and I'm going to be authentic. To me, the biggest problem with this week was he was not the least bit joyful. Yeah. He was not being authentic because he was trying to pick his words in some careful way. Yeah. And he wasn't showing people his heart. I still don't really know what his answer is to the question of what he thinks about the war. And if he can't be those three things, he's going to have a very tough time becoming president of the United States.
Well, yes, and look, there's the question of temperament and temper. And, we have both seen him be extraordinarily charming and extraordinarily good in a room. But yesterday, of all 4 of those days, yesterday, we talked about this on the show yesterday, but when he was up giving that answer, trying to clean it up, he looked testy, he looked aggrieved, he looked angry, he looked put out to be having to answer the questions that any presidential candidate has to answer, and especially this presidential candidate has to answer with relation to this issue and his brother.
And I've seen and you've seen George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton, all three in a row, 2-termers, all be that way on the campaign trail.
Yes.
So that's why I think people are overreacting somewhat, saying that this is the death knell of his campaign. But
by the way, I'm not saying that.
No, I understand. It's going to be fascinating, though, to see if he learns from this, because anyone who's worked for Jeb Bush or covered him saw that video from yesterday, and they recognize that version of Jeb Bush. Now, that version of Jeb Bush got elected governor of Florida. That version of Jeb Bush, in the end, could look like the most presidential. One argument he made last night, he spoke to the RNC meeting pretty late at night after we were off the air. He's making an argument, which he'll make all year, which is basically saying, pick someone who can win a general election. Pick someone who's electable. Pick someone who's not caught up in the ideological intra-party drama. That argument, in the end, if he can be a little bit less like he was yesterday on the Iraq answer, I think that argument could carry him to the nomination.
It could carry him to the nomination, but I'll come back to my initial comment, which is that I do think in the end, and at some point he's going to sit down for print interviews. He's going to do a profile. Long profiles, as the custom of every presidential candidate. He's going to sit down with a thoughtful writer. He's going to sit down with George Packer. He's going to sit down with one of our friends up here who has a book on the wall, like David Marinus, and he's going to have an interview. And someone's going to dig into what he actually thinks. We will find out eventually what he thinks. But on the basis of what we now know, if he is in a position, the posture that I think he is in, on the basis of what he said yesterday, and on the basis of the questions that he answered in the reporter scrum, I think it's a bad position to be in. I think it's untenable to be in a position where you are defending, in totality, defending the Iraq War as a good thing. That's a hard place to be in America right now.
And I go back to this question of the competence and the candidate skills. What's been interesting to me this week is listening to Republicans on the record, off the record, on background. They're not saying, man, he had a bad week.
No.
They're raising fundamental questions about, is he up to this?
This is the Geraldo point. Yeah. This is, yes.
Is he up to it? I didn't mean to denigrate Geraldo's point.
Yeah, no, I know, but you know what I'm saying.
But that is surprising to me, that he's got very little reservoir of people saying, well, bad week or tough issue. They're saying this tells you fundamental things about Jeb Bush's ability to win, and that is a bad place for him. He's lucky he's banked tens of millions of dollars already.
Yes, but I think that's also partly a result of the fact that this has been building for a while.
Right.
Because what the Republican establishment has been seeing so far in his campaign is lots of money, but not much support in Iowa, not much support in New Hampshire, and this deeper thing, which is you go around to those places and you don't find people who are really deeply enthusiastically for him. There's no part of the party that's clamoring for Jeb Bush other than the donor class, and that's been building in a subterranean way, and this is now kind of like sparked an overreaction maybe, or an appropriate reaction, but it's kind of lit a fire around this.
So this weekend he's speaking at the Iowa dinner, but he's also doing some events in Iowa. It'll be fascinating to see if Jeb Bush takes press questions. If he does, whether they ask about Iraq, and if they ask about Iraq, how he handles it.